Hey guys, we are now into March, which means my last frost date has passed. Yes! So I am down in the garden today to plant out some of my seedlings. Today I will be doing some Sweet William, some Bergamot and some Geum. For anyone that doesn't know, my name is Peggy and I am coming into my third year of growing cut flower garden here on my allotment in Kanagawa Prefecture, Japan, which is just south of Tokyo in USDA Zone 9B. Thanks for checking out my channel. It is such a nice day today. We are past our last frost day, although we are still getting down to about 1 or 2 degrees at night, so there is still a chill. There is still a chill in the wind that's here, but it's also really lovely and sunny. And for the last 2 weeks, we've had a load of rain. We've got a few sunny days coming up and then lots more rain, so it's a good time to get these seedlings in, knowing that they're going to get a good drink once they're in the ground and should get themselves established really fast. So let's get started. First, I am going to do my Sweet William. Okay, so this is my Sweet William, which I have started growing at home, and I'm growing it in little clumps. I didn't really thin it out. I think there's maybe 3 plants. Some are 2, some are 3, but I like to grow these in little clumps. Now, this is the first time I've grown them in the allotment because they're not my favourite flower, just the way that they look. But I see a lot of flower growers growing them for cut flowers because they have the kind of lots of flowers per stem, so they really fill out a bouquet. They also have lovely smell and a bit like stock. It's not your typical flower smell, it's kind of a cinnamon clovey smell. So they are a popular flower to grow. They're just not my favourite, but I've decided to try them this year and see how they do. Now, these are a member of the Dianthus family. Another name for Sweet William is Dianthus, and that includes other plants like your carnations. It's the same family of plants. I also don't like carnations very much, but that's a whole other thing. And they are supposed to be a perennial, but they are perennial from zones 4 to 8. Now, I'm in zone 9B. These guys don't like the heat that much, so I'm not sure if these are going to perennialize for me or not. It's a bit of an experiment. Wait and see. I don't know how these are going to go in the garden. Now, they are supposed to bloom from May right the way through to October. They are a cut and come again, so once you cut them, they should give you a second flush, if not more. Just if you're growing them as a garden plant and not necessarily as a cut flower, you want to be deadheading them to make sure that they flower right through the season. But I'm not sure how they're going to do once the heat kicks in. Now, they're quite well established. I planted these out in October, so they've had a long time sitting, getting ready to be put in the garden. And I'm hoping because it gets a bit warmer here earlier that they might flower before the May. Not sure. I'm hoping that because I planted them in October, they will actually give me flowers this year. They are either a short-lived perennial, which means they will perennialize, but you have to either let them go to seed themselves or propagate them in some way to make sure that they come back every year. Or they are a biennial. I hope they're going to give me flowers. But let's get them in the ground and see how these do in my little allotment here in 9B. I'm planting them here. I've got my allium. If you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that I had 2 different types of allium in here. One of them seems to be doing okay. The other one has completely died back in the weird weather that we've been having. So I don't think I'm going to get anything off that this year, but they're bulbs. So hopefully they will come back for me next year. So I'm kind of planting these around where these allium might come up. And giving them plenty of space. I've also got my orangium in here as well, which gets really big. So I might have to move these Sweet William that I've got there a bit further over because this is going to take up that whole area once it gets going. So I need to work out my spacing a little bit and then get these in the ground. All in except one little one. Doesn't look very genki. But I guess this one's coming home with me because there's no room for it in there. It's really hard when you grow lots, you want to get it all in, but I guess I'll keep this one in its pot and put it back in the little seed pod that I have at home. Seed pod, it's like a plastic greenhouse that I have at home, so that if any of these get eaten, if any of them don't like the transplant, or I just need to replace any of them, I've still got one left that I can swap in. And if not, I guess it's going in my little shady garden, which it won't like at all. Okay, so next up I have my Geum. I'm really excited to get these in because I've seen these in other people's gardens and I've seen them used in bouquets, and they're so pretty. They're quite a small little flower. They're a member of the rose family, and I guess if you look at them quite closely, these are double flowered ones. They do look a bit like a kind of primrose style, kind of old-fashioned garden rose. So I'm really excited to have these, and they grow on long stems with the little flowers at the end, and in a bouquet they can add the kind of airy element or the twinkly element at the end of a bouquet just to add movement into it, and it looks really cute. I just love them. So I'm really excited to get these in the ground. Okay, again, these are a perennial. I'm loving perennials right now. I think if I could fill the garden with all flowering perennials, I would be really happy. Less work for me to do, less seed starting and things to go on. So I love that it's a perennial, and this one spreads through rhizomes, underground rhizomes. Now it grows quite fast, and you have to split those rhizomes about every 3 years, and if you don't, the plant will go quite woody in its stems and then it'll just die back. So this is an important one for you to actually be digging rhizomes, but only every 3 years. It's not a big deal. The thing I'm worried about is that, again, like the dianthus or the sweet William, these don't like the heat very well. So I'm planting them in this row where I have an anemone that have come up on tiny little short stems. They're still coming up. I'm going to cut these all back today and hope that my next flush will be much longer. These are just the first ones to come out because the weather has been weird. I mean, they look very pretty. They're ridiculously short. But yeah, so these don't like the sun, so I'm planting them where my daffodil are right now, which you can't actually see. Here you go. It's where all of my daffodil and one hyacinth, which I obviously thought was a daffodil and has snuck itself in here. Most of these have already flowered, so I'm going to plant these because they're still quite short. I'm going to plant these in here now and hope that the sun will get them started. But next to these over here is where I have planted my dahlia. And so when the heat really kicks in, I'm hoping that my dahlia will come up and actually cast shade over here. I have had trouble in past years growing stuff here because my dahlia like to be there, and I have to put my dahlia there because it's the sunniest spot and really where my dahlia need to be. But it has shaded out this other row, so I'm hoping that that'll actually be advantageous this year, and we'll put some shade on these when the heat kicks in for the summer, and these will then be able to survive the worst of the heat and will perennialize for me instead of just dying back. That's my plan. So I'm going to get these in here. And again, I'm planting these in little clumps. So I think there's about two to three in each little tray. And I'm just going to leave them like that and grow them in a little clump. You can see the roots coming out of these. These guys want to be planted. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to be putting in today is bergamot. Look how pretty these guys look. And again, I'm really excited to get this in the ground. My only problem is I don't really have much space for it. My plan is for it to go in this row. So this is my end row, and currently I have my snapdragon in here. I've also got a little bit of crimson clover left from last year, and this is some salvia left from last year that you can see is starting to come back a little bit. And then here is where I have my tulip and my dahlia are planted in here. Now, if I remember correctly, my dahlia don't come as far as my tulip. I think the last dahlia is about this row here, which means I can have from the end of my tulip to around where my salvia starts. Now, my salvia last year when I grew it, I didn't like it that much. It looked really nice in the garden, but when I cut it, it wasn't doing much in the vase. It was dying and wilting really fast. Now that might have been because I was cutting it at the wrong time, and I need to get better at knowing when to harvest that. But it was just a bit like, nah, I don't know. Now, it was also the first year and it's a perennial, so I'm hoping that this year it's going to come back much stronger than before. I put on suntan lotion and it's made me super shiny, but look at this, I'm like a solar panel on my forehead. Jeez-o. So I'm going to put the bergamot in here, and if it crowds out the salvia, I think I'm okay with that. My problem is when you look at things this big. Now, I planted this in October, and this is as big as it's got since then. And so you think, oh, it's going to be really small. But I actually saw bergamot for the first time in a community garden near me, and it was massive. It was towering over my head. So I know that this stuff is going to get really big and it's going to get really bushy. So because I have such a small space, I'm not going to get that many in. They say that if you're planting it in your garden, you should try and put it about 90 centimeters apart. It's got about a 90 centimeter spread. Now, because I'm doing these for cut flowers, I cut everything hard. So things don't need as much space. I put everything a lot closer together, and I'm going to do that with these as well, because if I left 90 centimeter space, I'd literally have one in a row. But I think I'm not going to overdo it, because it is going to be at the end of my dahlia and they're going to be big and bushy as well, so there's not going to be a lot of airflow, and I did have a problem with powdery mildew last year on my dahlia, so I don't want to overcrowd things so much that there's no air getting in. So I think I'm only actually going to put 3 of these, which seems like such a waste because I have so many. But I'm going to put 3 of these. I'll choose the healthiest ones and put them in the ground, and the rest I will try and put in my garden. But again, these like full sun, and my garden does not get that. So I'm not sure. But I'm only going to put 3 in the garden for now. Okay, so bergamot is a member of the mint family, and everyone knows mint grows really well and really strong. It's another name for it is bee balm, and that's for 2 reasons. One, bees love it, pollinators love it. It's a really good plant to have in your flower garden just to attract pollinators. But another one is that you can actually use the oil from bergamot oil, to treat bee stings. It takes the sting out of a bee sting. So bee balm is its other name. It also has a load of other medicinal properties, so a lot of people grow this in a medicinal garden. It's good for reducing liver fat, it's good for headaches, it's good for nausea. I think it's got masses of use, so it's a really good one to have in your garden if you're into herbal remedies and things like that. And it grows a fruit. You can't actually eat the fruit, but you can make things with the oils from the fruits as well. But as well as that, it's a really interesting one in folklore. So lots of plants have different meanings, and a lot of the meanings are different in each country, but for bee balm it's actually quite similar in what they mean, and because it has so many medicinal uses, it's known as a plant that for good fortune, for health, and for prosperity. But interestingly, every colour of bee balm also has a different meaning, and I have chosen a really deep kind of pinky purple bee balm, and the meaning of a purple bee balm is mystery and spirituality, and it symbolises, I've written this down, symbolises admiration of someone's uniqueness. So I like that. And it seems right for the witch's garden. So I am only going to put 3 of these in, knowing that it's going to get absolutely massive, and try and grow the rest on at home. Which ones look best? This one and that one? Yeah, let's go with them. As you can see, I watered all of these really well. The roots are coming out the bottom of these as well. I watered all of these really well last night, so they've had a really good drink, and they are going into damp soil because it's been raining. Give them the best start. Oh, it's really hard. I want to put in all of them. How can I only put in 3? Maybe 4. I should put another one there. I'm going to put in another. I can't not. Oh no, that's a dahlia. I found a dahlia tuber. Okay, done. 3 it is. The other nice thing about bergamot is its smell. Like my Sweet William and stock, it has a really spicy smell. And you might know the smell because it is what is used in Earl Grey to give Earl Grey that really distinctive taste. Bergamot. Okay, and that is all from me today. It feels really good to have this stuff in the ground. If you still have weeks and weeks and possibly months and months until your last frost day, I'm really sorry. I feel your pain. I feel really lucky to be in 9B right now because I get to get stuff in early, but it does come with its downside in that so many of the things that I've put in today may not perennialise for me because it just gets too hot for them in the summer. I can try and put down some shade cloth. Maybe I can try and mulch them and try and keep it a bit cooler, but I don't know. Let's wait and see how it does. If you want to follow along and see how all of these do, please remember to hit the subscribe button below and you can come along with us for the season. If you want to see what I do with my cut flowers, you can check out my Instagram, which is From the Witch's Garden, and there's a link to that below as well. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.